Yes, guys, I'm Si. Welcome to Cardiff City World. Welcome to Thursday Night Live, where we're gonna talk a little bit, tiny bit about the transfer window, but not too much because I'm kind of over the transfer window now. It's shut, isn't it? But we'll talk about last weekend's game. We're gonna look ahead to Saturday, but we're also going to have a look at what is a very important month for the Bluebirds. And as always, on a Thursday night, I'm joined by Jamie Anderson. How are you, mate?
Good, mate. We're another chaotic week and a lovely trip up to Costa del Rotherham.
Yeah, mate. So, do you know what, right? I am more worried about Saturday than I have been about any away game since probably Lincoln, I reckon. And a few people have said, like in the comments and stuff, like, oh, we should be smashing these, blah, 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 because of the first game. And I'm like, yeah, but first and foremost, we've seen from the Burton game last week, the away game and the home game is very, very different. Like teams are going to come and just stick, 10 behind the ball, a lot of teams, when they come to our place. But when they're at their place, they're going to start fast, they're going to be physical, and they're going to try and get the crowd involved and stuff. Now, on the Burton game, I just said to you, I've said it already, but I'm interested to hear your sort of views on it. I was very disappointed with how we started tactically, because I thought what we had done previously in the sort of a few away games before that, like the Wickham and even Leyton Orient, was we took the sting out of the game and we quietened the crowd down by keeping hold of the ball, popping it about, and just generally, keeping the ball, getting control of the game early. And what I thought we did against Burton was we just went long balls, exactly what they want, because they want to win the first contact and then win the second balls and then get a load of long throws and set pieces. And I thought we just really played into their hands. And I was really baffled by it because I couldn't work out if it was a player thing where they were a bit nervy or whether it was a tactical thing, by instructions. But it was frustrating nonetheless. We did kind of improve a little bit as the half went on, but not massively. And I think BBM had the hairdryer out at half time. And obviously there was an improvement. But that must have been frustrating to be in the stadium and watch us kind of just lumping it forward. It was very, I don't know, old school, I suppose.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing more than anything was our start. I think we probably played into their hands very much. Like, again, we were appearing to go a bit more long and direct when we know that's probably not Callum Robinson's strength. When we saw the lineup, Joe Bagan being on the bench, it was almost like, okay, who's going to play left back? And then obviously it was Capaccio. And when we've seen Ronan play at left back, he's not as comfortable as maybe a Perry NG on the left-hand side. That early yellow card then creates this sort of this worry, this anxiety that he's going to go off, and he probably should have got a second yellow through no fault of his own. We just played into their hands for the first half. We couldn't get no rhythm. We were probably, I wouldn't say bullied, that was probably too strong a word, but we just allowed them to be comfortable in their own place. And it was, bar a couple of maybe half chances where flattered to deceive and high standards, like why we playing so poorly. The hairdryer comes out at half time and then we come out flying. And you're like, brilliant. Now we're 2-1 up. Results going against us to an extent. And we concede, probably from an avoidable free kick, let's say. And then, again, the deflection plays into their hands. And it contradicts what I've normally said in a way, because in the ground and after the game, I was really frustrated coming out of there because of the results gone against us in terms of the gap closing and stuff. And I know I always said, if you can't win, don't lose. And that probably after I calmed down a little bit, I was thinking, breathe. We still got that gap. It's 8 points to third, 4 points to second. I can't remember what it was. But either way, it wasn't a good day at the office. And I think BBM knew that. The Salic, let's say, the longer Salic's out, the more grey cloud there is for us, because we've got these games coming now against Rotherham and some physical sides that fans are probably wondering as to how we're going to deal with that. have we got a plan? Have we got a Mari Kellerman masterclass as a false nine? Or are we just going to have to change? Robinson can find that form that we know he's got. But yeah, it was a weird day out, a lovely day out, but a weird result, let's say. And again, it's just, mate, it feels like we're on a hot seat at the minute, doesn't it? Because people are literally right up our backsides.
Yeah, and I think I'm the same as you. Like, straight after the game, I was really, really frustrated. It was a bit of a gut punch. And like you say, the results went against us. But then also, when you actually look back at the game, they didn't create a lot of chances. They put us under a lot of pressure from set pieces in the first half. And I think the frustrating thing is that both of their goals come from, let's say, fortunate deflections. You have the one off Kellyman in the first half and then the one off the wall in the second half. But you just got to be alive to everything, haven't you? And I think set pieces, and with set pieces, when I say like I don't think we've got a massive issue with set pieces. I think what we have a habit of doing is falling asleep at set pieces. So either we get done by a routine, which we've seen a couple of times, where they put it to the edge of the box and shoot, or someone will put a set piece in. We win the first contact, but it's the second contact when the ball's bouncing around. We seem to, throw a leg at it and it skews off somewhere, and teams are getting some joy. We're not conceding a lot of chances in open play. I think I saw we're top of the league for clean sheets. It's not all doom and gloom, but the first 20 minutes, particularly of the Burton game, were a worry. I think you can look at some individual performances and maybe go, they've been at better standard of recent weeks. But then equally, the pitch wasn't great either. So maybe there was some thought with that they went a bit more direct. But that doesn't really fly for me, because when we did get it on the ground and just knock it about, we were actually pretty good. And it was just unfortunate that, you said we played into their hands, and I did at the start of the game. But I also thought we played into their hands in the second half, towards the end of the game. Even before they scored, we started to sit back. We took off Kellyman, which meant we didn't have quite that link between the midfield and the attack. And look, Joel Colwell, I thought, was actually really good when he came on, but he doesn't do the same job as Kellyman. He's busy and he's energetic and he wins duels, but he's not linking and running at the centre-backs that way. And then we took Alex Robertson off, and who I thought was excellent both halves. I know people were slating him on social media in the half-time, which I was quite shocked by, because if you go back and watch it, his defensive work in the first half was unreal. Like, he cut out a couple of cutbacks to the edge of the box where he was the only one that read it and cuts it out, and just a couple of headers and stuff. But anyway, my point being, when we took Kellyman off, we lost that little sort of attacking edge. Even as they were starting to get into the game, we didn't have the break. And then when we took Robertson off, we just lost control. We just couldn't keep hold of the ball. Dave Turnbull had a bit of an off day in terms of his normal composure. And then we just started to sit deeper and deeper. And then obviously, they get a fortunate goal, don't get me wrong, but you got to put teams to the sword. And they say, like when you're 1-0 up or you're 2-0 up, 2-1, one goal changes it. And I thought I would have liked to have seen us be a bit more proactive in trying to make it 3-1, put the game to bed, because it was clear from the very first whistle that we didn't have control of the game as what we normally do. So even when we went 2-1 up, I felt like there was still risk there. So I would have liked to have seen us be a bit more aggressive. But look, I don't think you can blame individuals. I think ultimately, you win, you lose, you draw as a team. And it was a difficult, like Burton have turned over some big teams, James, as well, mind. We're not the only one who have struggled. And like you rightly said, we didn't lose. And we've said probably for the last couple of weeks, win your home games, don't lose your away games, and you'll be all right.
Well, if we would have held on, and I know it's if and it's hypotheticals, we would have been joint top of away form in the league, which currently stands with Stockport, who've taken 25 points on the road this season. We've got 23. So we're second highest in the league for that. So you look at it and go, I know it's gone and things like that, but if we'd have held on, got those extra 2 points in the bag, you'd be thinking, bloody hell, we're definitely, well and truly where we are on merit. I think the good thing is we've got a management team that, you know, we've all praised, and rightfully so, that the fact that they set their bar so high that would have been a disappointing by their standards anyway, it would have been a disappointing result for them. And listen, you know, I think Bagan coming on in the second half was needs must. Did Brian Barry Murphy hope probably that he wouldn't have had to use him? Maybe. We've obviously since signed Scanlon, so that gives us that sort of security blanket that we were hoping for last Thursday. But again, like you said, is to have the both sides of it when you take the emotion out of it, because I can be a very emotional sort of person in the game, like any fan can. Did we deserve, like Ryan saying there, Bradford? Probably not, but we got those 2 early goals and we were resolute, we were strong. We had the options like Gabe Osho, Will Fish, Callum Chambers had a very good day at Valley Parade. So we were able to sort of nullify that physical and the sort of kitchen sink that was thrown at us. When I looked at the bench the other day, shout out to Rob Tankovic being on there, you're looking at it going, okay, straight away, there's no real sort of player that comes on that bench and can, in my opinion, sort of just bully people, if that makes sense. And I know you use that word, but physically impose themselves, for better words. And listen, it is 2 points drop. There's no way of looking at it. When you're 2-1 up away from home, it's 2 points dropped. But take your emotion out of it. We're now, 5 days gone from it. To be second in a form table over the season, to play 14 away games, winning 6, drawing 5 and losing just 3. It's not that bad. And obviously then we've combined that with an 80% winning record at home. Then we are where we are. And listen, now we've got that, like I said, that safety blanket. I don't think we'll be put in a position where we're worrying about who's going to play at left back. Because now we can manage Joe Bacon's minutes. We can make sure that we're optimizing his freshness, because Scanlon, I'm sure everyone would have watched his goal against us for Millwall last year. He's got wheels, he's rapid, and I'm excited to see what he could potentially bring to our team going forward, especially because maybe we utilize him like we did with Callum O'Dowda, that wing back high press role that, maybe if Ollie Tanner needs a break, for example, can we put him on the left-hand side and create those fizzing balls into the box for Callum Robinson? It just gives the manager another selection mindfulness, I suppose, than anything else.
Yeah, and I think what he does do is you do have a few tactical options with him now, because one thing I think, or the one thing that we do lack sometimes with Perry at right back rather than Ronan, is that recovery pace, is that if someone does get in behind or they get, the opportunity to cross from the other side, it's having someone who's quick enough to get across. It might be, say Saturday, right, where we're 1-0 up and there's 5 minutes, 10 minutes to go, and you've got Scanlon on the bench and Capaccio on the bench. You could technically bring them on as wingers and have, double defensive on both sides if you need to. But equally, if you're at home and you want to have a lot of pace out wide, you could have Capaccio and Scanlon start as your fullbacks. And suddenly that pace is massive, because I think we've all said that the one thing Cardiff probably do lack is a bit of, genuine out-and-out pace. So, yeah, I'm excited to see it. It sounds like he's pretty sharp as well, although he hasn't played 90 minutes in a long time. I won't be shocked if he starts, mate, if I'm honest. I think it's very clear. Like Joel Bagan, I thought was excellent second half against Burton. But he was one of the few, actually, who you could say, barely put a foot wrong. But it's clear he needs a rest. Like he cannot play every minute of every game. So, I wouldn't be shocked if we saw, Scanlon for an hour and Joel comes on for a sort of half hour. But I guess, that would be up to the manager and see where he thinks he is. Like Alex has just said there, I wouldn't mind seeing us with a back three. Funny enough, that's what I've been sort of blowing that trumpet a little bit with Salic out. I wouldn't mind seeing Callum Robinson and Isaac Davis up front together, because where Callum is in his career now, he's not playing on the last man of like he used to when he was younger. He's dropping in. His link-up plays improved dramatically, but you need runners in behind him. Same as when Kipakio at Kellyman played as a false nine. You have to have people who are going to get in behind in the space he creates. And I just wondered, maybe away from home, you go 3 at the back, especially, you've got Scanlon and Kipakio as your wing backs. You could have Joel Bagan as a left-footed centre-back if you wanted to, and then have, Robinson and Isaac as your sort of 2 up top. And then you can still have a Willock or a Kellyman just behind them too, as long as you've got this, a solid pivot. But we haven't done that a lot under Brian Barry Murphy with the 3 at the back, is it? So it's an interesting one. We definitely got options, mate. I just think, just going back to Salic, and I've got a video coming out over the weekend on why I think we've missed Ruben Colwell while he's out. And I think, some people might be surprised at some of the elements that I think we've missed with him. It's not necessarily just, goals and assists and whatever. But with him out and Salic out, it does affect 2 parts of our overall game really fundamentally. And that is the pressing. Like we had to sort of rejig the way we were pressing when Ruben was out of the side, or since he's been out of the side. And also now, those 2 were kind of the front post defenders for set pieces. So it does, and I know people will say, oh, well, someone else will just go there. But you go and have a look at Salic's defensive headers. It's unreal the amount of times he wins that first header. And I just think sometimes, like, you see substitutes come on the pitch and they'll be a bit like, oh, you need to go here, or they don't know where to go off a set piece. And I just think, we're missing both of them, their physicality in certain areas of the pitch. So it's one of them, mate. Like, I think we need them both back, really.
Yeah, and I think there's 2 aspects from the way I look at it from Saturdays. Our last away win at Bradford, we had the ability to have a strong bench. We had all available centre halves there, so we were able to sort of rotate and change and bring those players on. So you've got the experience of Osho, you've got those players. I do think we missed Osho's presence there on Saturday. I think recently Osho's shown that he's got that rough and tumble about him. He knows the lower leagues. He knows that from his time with Luton, that he's able just to do the simple things, chuck himself in it. And again, you look at it with kind of the whole situation with Chambers. Towards the end, Chambers looked very ropey. And that's probably not common for him of late, because he's been very, very good. But then, the biggest thing for me is with look at like Ronan Kipakio is he hasn't had the best of moments of late. And I'm pretty sure that the manager will have done like he's done with every player. It's just sat him down and put that arm around his shoulder and just said, listen, don't worry about it. It's all part of your development. It's all part of learning. You'll come back better and stuff like that. Because again, Ronan, start the season, was tearing it up for us. And then he's had to sort of bide his time. I think we probably forget as well at times how young he is, and the fact that he's really burst onto the stage less than a season ago. And it's his first proper season as a first team player. The same can be said with Dylan Lawler. This time last year, they were playing in the under-21s. So you've got to be mindful of that as well, that, there's that expectation, but there's also that realization, I think, that these players are young. Ronan is frightening going forward. Everybody knows that. Craig Bellamy knows that. And I'm sure a lot of bigger clubs know that. But naturally, he's got to learn as well at times how these physical, more experienced pros are going to, sort of try and get to your weaknesses as such. And, the good thing is, like I said, we are top on merit. This is going to be a very different game, simply because I feel that Rotherham have signed so many new players that they're going to have this new sort of optimism, this comfort. I've listened to their manager today talking about how he wants as many fans there as possible to get on the sort of intimidation and stuff like that. And it's going to be tough. We've got a decent record at Rotherham. We've got that added sort of, that encounter, let's say, for the rain. And I know someone said there's a 40% chance of rain on Saturday. So I just think we've got to have as many bodies available. And I know he said Salic, Lawler aren't probably available or definitely out this weekend. That's 2 big misses straight away. So I'm hoping Osho is fit, because I think we'll need Gabe Osho at the back. I think we'll need him, that combination of him and Chambers, or him and Will Fish, because they're gonna be at it. They're coming into a nice little bit of form. They're unbeaten in 3. It was funny. I said to the wife a few weeks ago, I said, it's typical. Rotherham hadn't won since the beginning of November. And then lo and behold, 2-3 games before they play us, they start winning. That's just the way things are. People have, thank goodness, the transfer window shut, because all these new players are going to come, and we're going to have a different encounter against them than what we did at home. And listen, Burton, we brushed it off. We've probably learned from it. BBM knows what he's doing. And we've just got to hope that the 1,500 fans or so that are travelling up to Rotherham on Saturday, we've got the basics right. Get the basics right. Win your headers, win the duels, win the aerial battle, then start playing. Because I think there's that fine line, isn't there, of overplaying. You've got to earn the right to play as well, I believe. You can't just go there and think, because we are top of the league, we're gonna be able to have 700 passes a game. That's not going to happen. 300 passes a game. You've got to earn it. And they always say leagues are won in the trenches. You've got to be resolute. And I think having Gabriel Osho fit, that is, as daft as it sounds, people like Osho's experience will be huge in games like Saturday. This is Saturday coming up.
100%, mate. And look, like, the one thing you could say, I suppose, is because they've brought in sort of, I think it's 5 or 6 players. I can't remember the exact list, but like, that is quite a big amount of players to bring in January. And I think if they, my hope is that they start them all on Saturday, because I think that creates its own set of problems. I don't think they will. Obviously, like the likes of Gray have been there for a week or two, hit the ground running with a couple of goals. They've signed a big centre-back from Norwich. They've signed a wing-back from Villa. They've signed Enquiries. And I'm sure Enquiries, if he gets the opportunity to play, he will want to make a point. Because for all intents and purposes, it looked like until Christmas that he was nailed on to come here in January. So I'm sure he will, personally want to prove make a point. So there's a lot of little subplots and a lot of little things. They've got obviously Sam Nome through the middle, who scored, I think, 13 goals this year. It's not just going to be one of them where you can turn up, play your game, and, you barely get out of second gear. They're going to have to fight for it. And we've already said, mate, right? A lot of these teams have made, when Cardiff come to town, it's like their cup final for the season. But also, when you add in the teams who are down the bottom, and, Rotherham is still in the bottom 4, they need to win. They need to continue this little run of form. So they're going to fight for everything. So you have to get the selection right, the tactics right. Of course you do. You've got to defend properly first and foremost, and you've got to not be lumping long, hopeful balls up to Callum Robinson to win against a 6'5" defender. Like, you've got to use your head. So for me, I agree with you with regards to Osho. I'm a big fan of Will Fish, and I think his passing really helps not just the team, but I think it helps like Willock and Tanner and people like that. But it probably wasn't the game for him. But we didn't have, Osho had a bit of a knock from the Stockport game, so it is what it is. I think for Rotherham, like Jamie just said there, you start your best lineup for Saturday. But what is the best lineup for Saturday? Because I think the best lineup for Saturday is different to the following week.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like, at the minute, maybe Chambers does need a break because he's had a lot of minutes. And if we're going off the way that maybe we've seen a sort of pattern, that, it's all about being fresh, being sort of optimum fitness and so on, maybe he does need that break. Maybe he is tired. I don't know. But if Osho's there, why not play Osho and Fish? Just have that. I think that's important. Left back, at least we've got those 2 options at left back, whether Bagan's fully fit or not. Joe is strong defensively. We yet to see Scanlon in a Cardiff shirt. When he was at Millwall, he was, what embodied a Millwall player in essence, was blood and thunder. It was very strong. Right back, I think as daft as it sounds, I think you've just got to go with Perry NG's experience. I think he's played a lot of minutes as well. But I think we need a bit of, pardon my French, but a bit of shithousery, Perry NG, away from home especially. I think he winds, and he can wind a few attackers up and put them off their game. So, I think that the midfield three is interesting, because I personally like to see Kellerman higher at the pitch. I don't like him dropping in too deep, because I feel like when he drops in too deep, he's always got someone up his backside, and he's either getting fouled, or because he's chasing the ball or what have you, we're losing that effectiveness at the top of the pitch, the link up. So that midfield three, you've got to have, a Wintle as a sitter, and then, your two others then, haven't you, whoever you decide to play. Listen, we enjoyed what we saw at home against Barnsley. Okay, Barnsley were way off it, but you could look at it and say, no, we were just very good. And Kellerman as that false nine he was unbelievable, wasn't he? It was nice that he was able to link up with Ollie Tanner and link up with his wingers and get them involved. He just looked so comfortable there, didn't he? He was able to kind of put his backside out a little bit, just to absorb that pressure off the defenders who were trying to track him. I just think it's not going to be an easy game. And, like I said, Rotherham, they've gotten more options now. That's the key thing, options. Their manager said about it maybe in the beginning of the season, there was probably a bit of complacency with players because there was no one really competing with them for positions. But like people are saying, a good referee would help, 100%. I agree. But we've just got to be at it for the full 90 minutes. And I think when we are, we'll be fine. I mean, our last 12 games against Rotherham, we've won 9, drew 3, and Rotherham only won 3. So we need to hope that form as such, or that record continues, because I don't think we're in a position now to be slipping up. We really need to get back on the winning train, let's say, especially away from home, because I know people look at it and go, we've only had one win in 5 away games, I think it is, which is a valid point. But we just need some energy, don't we? We need something to keep us going, and hopefully we go on one of those amazing runs like we saw a few months ago, where we just went bang, 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 bang. And Chris Willock mentioned it earlier on in his press conference. He said when they've had a bit of a setback so far this season, they bounced back, and I think that's what we want.
Yeah, I think in terms of the selection, I'd go with Kellyman up top, and I'd actually put I'd have Robertson and Wintle with Joel Colwell, and I'd put Joel Colwell on Dan Gore, because everything which Rotherham tried to do comes through him. He makes a lot of passes every game, and if you set Joel on him, it just disrupts him a little bit, and just he doesn't have to win every duel, but you just make him rush, and you force him to give it to someone else, so he can't dictate the tempo of the game. And then, like I said, I would just like to see us look after the ball a bit better, because I feel like if we do that, especially in the early part of the game, eventually, like in the first game, they set very compact, and they set 2 banks of 4 in front of the ball, and they made it very difficult to break them down. And what we did in the end was we just kind of overwhelmed them. We got a goal from Salic through a set piece, and kind of just overwhelmed them with our players on the ball. Now, of course, some of those players are out, but I would like to think if we can look after the ball a bit better and put them on the back foot a little bit, the crowd will go quiet, and then you can just let your quality speak for itself. Chris Willock has been in electric form recently. Ollie Tanner, before the Burton game, had been in really, really sharp form. Kellyman's been sharp. Robertson's, scored a couple of goals last weekend. Perry NG's been excellent. So it's not like we got a group of players who are out of form. Like, people are in form. Maybe there's 1 or 2 who could do with a rest, like you mentioned, Chambers. Hopefully, 1 or 2 will be back. But then you've also got some fresh legs who haven't played that much football recently, in your Kean Ashfords and your Isaac Davises. They haven't played that much recently, and I think they have a lot to offer. As I think, if I remember correctly, Kean obviously scores a great goal against Rotherham in the first game up with his left foot. But if I remember correctly, he had a really, really strong game versus these last time. So, and for footballers, sometimes that matters. Like psychologically, it's like Callum Robinson always scores against certain teams because you just fancy it. Like if you've performed historically well against teams, you tend to just fancy it. And I think maybe there's something in that. Look, I believe, I've said this to you before, mate, I believe that if we have the right attitude and the right tempo, we have too much quality to beat the majority of the teams in this league. And I think we'll have too much for Rotherham if we're at it. However, if we're not at it and we perform like we did in different parts of the game against Burton, I think Rotherham will cause us a lot more problems than what Burton did in terms of creating chances and things like that, because I think they've got better players. You know, they've brought in Duncan Watmore. Duncan Watmore is a very, very experienced forward, knows that, you know, how to win free kicks and things like that. Dan goes out, that's good, because he's a real good footballer.
Yeah, I mean, again, I listened to the Rotherham manager and Watmore's interviews, and their manager he alluded to the Dan Gore situation. He said Dan Gore's a brilliant player, but we went on to score 3 goals against Exeter after he went off, and to score 4 goals away at Exeter in such a, you know, is their home record is something they pride themselves on. I think it goes to show that they have got that ability. That's prior to them signing some of these players that they've obviously bought in on deadline day. They've had 4 or 5, well, they'll have 5 days worth of training as well, integration into the team. I don't think anybody in this team, in this league, are rollovers. They're not. I know sometimes we'll beat them at home, but again, when you go away, then naturally it's a completely different game. You see the polar opposite of sides. You have a great home form. They can't mix that up on there because maybe they haven't got a plan B. Maybe it's just that some people just can't deal with that traveling aspect and their plans go out the window. And listen, it's you know, for everyone who's been to Rotherham, on the outside the stadium looks like a massive, you know, a big size. You go in it and it's not the biggest the pitches. You know, you got to expect that long, you know, the long throw that will come in. And you know, someone mentioned about Trott's distribution earlier on. You know, these are little things that maybe teams are kind of looking at and saying the 1%ers. If we can put Trott off, for example, with, you know, putting somebody on, you know, not allowing him that diagonal ball that he likes to do, then he's going to have to sort of switch on and go, how can I play out? I don't think they'll give us a lot of respect, and they shouldn't, because their manager was fuming at the fact that when they came here, he almost wants a bit of revenge because of how poor they were when they came to us. But on the flip side, that I think we've got, again, I know games aren't won on paper, but I'd love to see Isaac Davis getting more minutes. I think Isaac Davis's pace alone, his endeavour, his work rate. What I think we do well is when we press high and we stop teams playing out. It forces the mistake. It gives us that sort of field position that teams don't like to be with their back to the goal. I think Isaac Davis is a fantastic player. I rate Isaac Davis. I love him for the fact he embodies everything that Cardiff City fans want from their own player. Work rate, you know, get stuck in. Kean Ashford's the same. I think Kean on his day against these sort of teams that he'll get stuck in. But it is the only worry, isn't it? Like you said, is the gaps, like someone's just there. If we leave too much space in between the thirds, they will expose it. Gabe Biancheri has pace to burn. We know him. He's a goal scorer. We know what he can offer. You know, that they're going to be very clever. It's their home pitch. It's a horrible place to go. You know, the changing rooms for our team is like a PE class. It's not going to be easy, but we've had 6 days. Well, we'll have a full week's worth of training, which we haven't had in a while. And I think, listen, I think we've got, as long as we don't have those injuries, we've got a big enough squad or good enough squad to get these wins, but we just need to get a result that goes our way and then something else goes our way, if that makes sense. Because at the minute, it seems to be when we drop points, everyone's gaining, which then adds that extra anxiety to fans. I mean, I was doing the same thing. I was checking, you know, oh my goodness, Luke, you know, I said I wouldn't do it. I was looking at the gap between I said, oh, don't worry about second, just keep looking at third. What did I do in the ground? Straight on live score. Oh my goodness, here we go. Lincoln's winning. Oh no, Bradford's winning, and so on. I was just thinking, you can't help it, can you? You can't help it. But if we get a win, hopefully those nerves will be settled a little bit.
And the other side of that is Lincoln have got a really tough game on the weekend against a Plymouth side who've started to get it together. So that's an interesting fixture in itself that you don't quite know how that will go. Plymouth have won 3 of the last 5, I think. I know they lost last week to Stockport, but that's a tough game. They'd won 3 on the bounce before that, and it'll be interesting, if they could take something at Lincoln, it makes what we do even more important because you can open up that gap again then. And for me, look, going on Isaac Davis, mate, I've said, I did a video just before Christmas saying that I thought he would be and could be a real vital part of our sort of second half of our season, particularly away from home, because I think if you look, and I'm not criticizing Callum Robinson here, I'm just pointing out the differences in the two players. But if you put Isaac Davis up front from the start last week, number one, every one of those long balls which went through to the keeper, he's chasing, and he's chasing with pace. Also, he's going to press everything. He's going to take up different positions. He might not come to feet so much, but you don't really need him to because you've already got Kellyman in there. What you need is someone to run the channels and look to play off the back of the last defender. And for me, I think that away from home is so important that you've got something that's just different. And I think if you want to get at Rotherham and you want to start quickly, having someone playing up front who will press and harry and just won't leave people alone is really important. And, I think Kellyman's very good in the press. I don't think he's got quite the pace and the physicality of like Ruben or Isaac, but I do think he's good in the press. He's tricky because he's deceptively quick because he looks like he's not that quick, but he's got long legs and he ends up, pinching the ball or getting something on it. And I think that's beneficial. But there's options there, and I'm exactly in the same boat as you, mate. I don't think you can drop Willock, which rules out Isaac on the left. But I would be very inclined, if I was the manager, which I'm obviously not, to play Isaac through the middle mid from the start on Saturday.
Yeah, and it's brilliant, isn't it? Because we all, as football fans, we all have a different view of where we see things. Isn't it brilliant that we have these discussions when we're top of the league? What was it, unbeaten in 9 games? With 5 wins at home. No, 5 wins, 4 draws. There you go. So, again, to have these little 1%ers, these little things that we think, we can improve on and so on. We're never going to get the information as to why we've selected a team. It could be anything. It could be someone's been under the weather Monday to Friday, and like the BBM says, if they're not training or whatever, I'm not going to pick them. And he's done that. And to be fair, the sword that he's riding on, so to say, has been good so far because we're top of the league. But it's sometimes I think our best way of defending is by pressing. It's like a rash, isn't it? We just don't give teams time to settle. Bradford away, we scored first. We went bang bang, and then we were able to absorb that pressure. Then we sort of knocked the stuffing out the home fans a little bit. Whereas if we give sides like Burton, if Rotherham score the first goal, it adds that bit of nervousness, I suppose, not just on the field, but off the field. And then you kind of have to think, right, what isn't going wrong? You almost second guess it. And I just feel like we don't need to give these sides a bit of a boost. If we can just press them and make it uncomfortable for them, they're going to have spells. But as long as we are energetic, we're physical, we're at it, so to say, I just think we can win it. And like I said, the game is 95, 99, 100 minutes, whatever the referee wants to play. But you can't have little lapses of concentration because you make your own luck. We're not getting luck. Let's be brutally honest. It's a stonewall penalty on Perry NG, which, for the love of life of me, the referee's got a clear view and the assistant referee has got a clear view. I can only think that he's thought that Perry's reputation as such as kind of he's either dived or he's done that. Well, if so, that's a yellow card, isn't it? But you could look at it and say, on the other side of it, Roland could have been sent off. But we've only had 1 penalty all season. I'm not saying, we need a penalty to win the game by any means. But sometimes you need those little 1%ers, like I said, just to go your way, because it feels like at times we're not getting the penalties. We're not getting those those, let's say, stonewallers decisions. And it's just like we come out of those games going, especially the ones on the road where we've drawn, it's a bit upsetting, isn't it? It's a bit like a bit of a kick in the proverbial, so to say, because that penalty or that free kick that you should have had could have meant 2 extra points. But again, we're still top of the league. I mean, I do enjoy the comments coming through that we're still in people's heads. It's fantastic. I love that. I think, on a Thursday night when we have these chats and we're talking about ourselves in League One, that people have to jump in on our Cardiff City chats.
But I suppose it's one of them, and it's when you're the biggest club in Wales, it attracts people from smaller clubs to come and say hello, and that. It's all right. It's okay, mate. It's all good, isn't it? It'll be interesting, mate, for sure on the weekend. And look, February as a whole is very interesting for the sort of top 6 because there's some big games. I just looking at Saturday's games, like Stockport have got Leyton Orient, which is Leyton Orient's a real tricky one. It is at Stockport's place, but Leyton Orient are the sort of side which could go and turn them over. Same with Plymouth and Lincoln. So it just becomes more important that you make sure you win your home games and you take something from those away games. And in some ways, after last week, you're thinking, we got to win at Rotherham. We got to win at Rotherham. But I think it was, I can't remember who it was now. Someone in the comments on one of the videos earlier was saying, if we don't win at Rotherham and we draw or we don't get it, like, I'm going to start worrying. And I was like, I just think I still stand by. If we win our home games and don't lose away from home, we'll be all right. Because at some point, Lincoln's unbeaten run will come to an end. I do think that they will fall off a little bit. There's a bit of interest in their manager as well, which is going to be, maybe one to follow as well, whether he goes somewhere. Bolton, I think, they're on a good run. So you'd fancy, and they've been there and done it before in terms of promotion races and playoff races. Same with Stockport. It's not going to be easy, but you've got to kind of just focus on your individual jobs as a team and just win your games. But even just looking at Saturday, Luton versus Bradford, like that means they're going to take points off each other in some form. You got Bolton, all right, they got Barnsley, so you'd expect them probably to win that. But although Barnsley made quite the response to losing to us, they won 4-0 or something. So Plymouth Lincoln's a big game. Stockport, Leyton Orient, they're all games where this could stick up. And then Tuesday, you've got a few games where like Mansfield and Peterborough. So there's not really which any affect us as such on the Tuesday. But the following Saturday, we got Luton at home. Bradford have got Peterborough United. That's a tough one. Who else is there? Huddersfield got Stevenage. A lot of these teams are playing each other. Lincoln play Bolton next Saturday when we play Luton. So if Luton, and I know it's a hypothetical, but if Lincoln don't win against Plymouth, even if they draw, and we get our win at Rotherham, you can go into that game the following Saturday. If we can get a home win against Luton, Lincoln could easily drop points again 2 games in a row. So it just becomes important that you just win your games and then, move on. Don't worry about what's going on elsewhere. Like there's nothing that you can do about what's going on at Bolton, Lincoln, wherever, it's just do what you've got to do. I do think Rotherham is going to be tricky though, mate. So it's not
going to be easy. Like we've got the discussion there about transfers, and I was looking on Transfer Market earlier on about the teams who are in and around us. So Bolton, Bradford, Stockport, Lincoln, and their incomings. And to what is said, Bolton had 4 key new signings: John Joe Kenny, Ruben Rodriguez, Jack Bonham, a goalkeeper, and Rob Apter, who's brother of obviously Matthew Apter, who's in our 21s. So they've replenished their squad. They've added to it. Bradford have made about 7 key new signings: Paul Mullin, Ethan Wheatley, Harrison Ashby, Caden Jackson, Lee Evans, Joe White. So they've almost almost reset and just added as many toys as they can. Stockport apparently have made 6 signings. One of them being obviously the brilliance that is Louis Barry, but he's not going to be fit for a while. They signed Adama Sidibe, I believe, from St. Johnston. So they've got a couple of good players. Tantu Alafe, I believe it is as well. So they've there, and Lincoln have signed 5 players. So a lot of teams, I think Alfie Lloyd, we know him quite well because I think he was at QPR or somewhere. But teams are doing that. We signed more based on the idea of quality. We've heard about we've kind of gone for quality as opposed to quantity. And I know we talked pre-show about the whole Salek situation. The greediness of us and whatever, we may have wanted to explore hope getting the striker in, but if Salek is sort of back within the next week or so, then that probably justifies the reason why we haven't to an extent. And, but if he's not and it was longer, then naturally you'd be worried because you'd be thinking, oh my goodness, like the drop off, especially with the outlet perspective of holding the ball up and pinning defenders, we'll have to find different ways to pick up the points. Our home form is fantastic. 80% of our games we've won at home, and we haven't had that for many, many years. So we're doing something right at home. Away from home, we just need to get those little moments, don't we? Like those little sort of, like you said, the little deflections, a little bit of luck that we can come out of places then winning games as opposed to drawing them. Because to have, 6 wins on the road, that's not bad. 5 draws, that's where we, and you look back at those draws, we could have probably got there. We should have beat Burton. We should have held on there. Wickham away, that's another 2 points that, we probably dropped because of lapse the concentration more than anything or little deflections. And like I said, it's always worrying, but I do believe like Bolton will come on strong, but their away form, they're not even in the top 6 for away form. So they're going to probably peel off a little bit. Lincoln are just the team that just don't want to go away. That's credit to them. I'm not going to sit here and say, they're not there because they are there by merit. They're the second best home record in the league. So you'd argue that the 2 best teams in the league are the top 2. But we just got to keep at it. And like you said, Ruben Colwell coming back, mate. Like if he can keep, hopefully there's no setbacks now. That's a new sign altogether. That's somebody that will, he'll transform this team. And imagine that Kellerman and Ruben link up if Salek was out or whatever, and we played a false 9, and then Cole was linking up there. It's frightening. So naturally, emotion will make us worry because we are in an unfamiliar position for ourselves. But we take every game as an individual. We have to do what we can do, and then we move on. And like I said, home game, I'm confident we'll beat anybody. With the now Lincoln, is it Lincoln 12:30? They've changed it to, mate. That's gonna be like a playoff final. That's gonna be huge. And then we just kick on, mate. We kick on. We take the punches that we have, and then we kick on again.
Yeah, 100%, mate. And like, I know Lewis, who has asked a couple of times about Salic, like, and look, all I can say is what I was told and heard, and that was that he had a scan was all clear, and he's out with concussion protocols or whatever. And if anyone tells you like an amount of time, to me at least, unless they know something which we don't, in terms of an actual injury, and if it's a concussion thing, you can't put a time on it. He could literally get cleared tomorrow, or he could literally get cleared in 7 days or like 3 weeks. Like there's not really a way to put a time frame on it, which is why I think the manager's sort of saying, you got to take it time by time, and you got to give him, you got to play it day by day, and you got to give him time to recover because of the nature of the injury. Now, what I say is it's an opportunity for others. It sounds like Ruben Colwell is a lot closer than perhaps we thought he was in terms of sharpness, fitness, and the rest of it. I agree with you, mate, as well. Like, if you put Ruben or Kellyman as a false 9 and the other one just behind, like, it's frightening. And I think people who are critical of Ruben often forget as well, there's a reason why every single team, and I mean every team we played against, probably bar Peterborough in the first game, doubled up on him. Every time he got the ball, they were swarming him, they tried to make it difficult for him because he's rated as by other teams and other teams' fans as the best player in the league. Now, for whatever reason, Cardiff fans will question that, but I think he had one, maybe two bad games in the whole of the season before his injury. I thought he was excellent, both on the ball, but also defensively as well. I thought he was excellent. And I do think we've missed him. Now, if he's back, say he's back, I know, hypothetically, back for the Luton game. What a lift that is for that game, because that Luton game would be big. And, if you can get these players back, you can get Salic back, maybe. Suddenly you're thinking, right, who's going to miss out on this squad? Because, all right, at the moment we might be thinking, could do with a striker or this or that. But a couple of weeks, they're all back and you're like, wow, we're leaving out whoever. They're not even getting in the matchday squad. So football's very it's fans and media and everything. It's very instant, isn't it? And I get it with fans because we're all emotional about it. And particularly when you're watching games, you can get emotional and stuff, and it's difficult to take yourself out of it. But for me, I'm still confident that we got more than enough. I think I said all along, there's going to be stressful moments where there might be a time in about a month where we think we've thrown it away and suddenly third place are 2 points behind us. But I still believe that we'll come good and see it off. It's just what I think about the manager, the team, and everything which goes into it. I think we'll see a vastly improved performance on Saturday. Let me ask you a question, James, because you said earlier, or you said a few times over the weeks, do you think our best form of defense is to be on the front foot? Would you like to see us be a little bit more aggressive away from home than what we have been?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, BBM probably would like to. Again, he is a manager that is in his probably biggest job that he's ever had. So he's learning. I think, again, we've not been blessed with attack-minded, philosophical managers like we've got with BBM. His way of approach, he always carries out, and you haven't seen many contradictions to what he said. And if you're a fan listening to that in the media and so on, you can imagine what he's saying to the players. He's probably saying the same thing. So that goes straight, that straight away sets a tone. I just feel like, especially, we know what we're going to be at home. We're flying. We literally are on the front foot. We have to wave, little sections of the game. Of course you do. But you press high. You chase lost causes. You get those little 1%ers where Isaac Davis is pressing. And that's what I just want to see from home. I think our fans really, really like seeing that. And we're starting to become more and more accustomed to it. And sometimes, for myself, I'll speak of myself, maybe you get a bit, not greedy, but that desire that you want more. It's that hunger. You want more. You just want to see it more often. And I think sometimes you are going to have your backs against the wall away from home. Sometimes there's going to be risk versus reward. We know that. But I just think that the players we have in attacking areas, the speed we've got, the options hopefully off the bench as well, the likes of Isaac Davis, if he doesn't play, there won't be a drop-off. And that's why I say so. I think it's press high, win the middle of the park when there's the second balls, and then our wing-backs will get higher. And I think we'll cause a lot more problems. It's when we kind of sit off and we allow teams to almost get into their rhythm. I feel at times we struggle because either officiating decisions go against us, so those little free kicks or whatever, or we lose our way of playing, and we start doing things which are, going direct when it's not on or stuff like that. But again, it sounds very contradictory for me to say it when we're top of the league and we're doing very well. So I think we just got to literally put our gauntlet down, press the accelerator and say, I don't think many teams can deal with our pace. I don't think many teams can deal with our tempo. And I don't think many teams can deal with the exertion of pressure that we put on them. So if we can continue to do that, I think we'll start seeing these draws away from home turn into wins. And there's nothing better than traveling 4 hours on a train or whatever to see us win away from home, because it sets the journey up, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're buzzing all the way home, man, aren't you? It's like it's one of them as well, mate. Is I've been quite impressed with Brian Barry Murphy over the season, generally in terms of, we have been winning games. And actually, probably Saturday was one of the only times I've seen us start to drop deep and sit back a bit when we're winning. Generally, he's encouraging us to keep pressing, to keep moving, especially at home, but even away when, was it Leyton Orient or was it Bradford? One of them, when he went 3-5-2 and chucked Isaac Davis and Callum Robinson up front. So we had 5 at the back to, absorb the pressure. But then we had Isaac trying to, run the channels and get it up quick. So the one thing I want to see us improve, mate, on Saturday from last Saturday is keeping hold of the ball from the very first minute. I want to see us play our game. And I know that Nathan Trott is really nervous at them, but you could tell he's nervous within his possession. But teams will, like I think you said, will pick up on that. So he's got to find a way to get past that. Whether it's, Wintle or Robertson are dropping in a bit deeper to pop a ball off to the fullback so he can just knock it in, pop it off to the fullback and you're away. Or whether the wingers drop in deeper and he can just chip a shorter long, a short long ball, if that makes any sense, to the winger and pop it off that way. We got to help him, but he also has got to just relax a little bit, I think, is probably the best way of putting it, because I know I'm not worried about him whatsoever with regards to his handling, his shot stopping, anything like that. But he has looked nervy in possession since that mistake. Dominic Ballard with the little press. And look, it's just one of them. It's natural, isn't it? He's a human being. He made a mistake. It's playing on his mind. But we can't do what we did on Saturday and just boot it long. It's just giving the ball back to the opposition for all intents and purposes. Barry says there, Scanlon winner from the left wing. I wonder whether he might get a start, mate, Scanlon. I really do think that. Just on the new signings, obviously we brought in a third keeper and we brought in a left back. I think we said 2 weeks ago, you'd probably be, that's addressing the major holes in the squad. I think if you're being greedy, you start saying like, we could do with a physical 6 and someone to give Wintle a bit of a break and, could we get a striker? But it's probably being a bit greedy. Interestingly, you did mention them briefly. The under-21s have replenished the stocks and they've signed 3 or 4 very, very good players. They've got young Isaac Davis from Forest, sorry. They've signed a lad from Spurs. They've signed Herbie James. And they also signed Caden Voice, who's been really good, actually, since what I've seen of him, although he's been playing at left back in the games I saw. So that's kind of interesting to me, that we've, and rightly so, because they've let all the sort of the lads who were, probably closest to first team football in terms of where the squad is, have all gone on loan. So, they needed players at the end of the day. So that's encouraging. I do think Tankovic will be in the first team probably by the end of this year and start of next year. It just seems to be his trajectory in terms of his ability and his work rate and his attitude. BBM likes him. Darren Pearce likes him. Everybody seems to rate him. So my opinion is he'll be a first team squad member next year. But I'd like to see him get on the pitch maybe now and again. But I guess that might come later in the season, hopefully. What do you feel? So just to round us off, mate, like very quickly run through we've talked through different scenarios and stuff like that. Very quickly run through your 11 and what you think the score will be, including scorers. Why not?
I always go with Sienna's 2-1 prediction, or as she calls it, Gary Bell's. He always says 2-1. So 2-1 win. I think we rotate the centre halves. I think Gabe Osho comes in, if I'm honest. I think he probably comes in. Bit of freshness again, bit of experience. Does he play alongside Will Fish? I think so. Right back, Perry NG. Left back to start, I think, is going to be Joel Bagan. The midfield 3 is an interesting one. I think we play Wintle as a 6. Who do you play with him? I think you've got to play Alex Robertson. I think he links up very well. I personally don't really want to see Kellerman dropping in, if I'm honest. I wouldn't mind seeing him as the false 9 on Saturday. So would I start Turnbull there? Quite possibly. Wingers, I think it's a tough one. Do you start Ollie Tanner off the right, or do you give Kean Ashford a start? That's probably one of the conundrums you're going to have a look at, isn't it? Off the left, Willock's been brilliant, but I wouldn't mind seeing Isaac Davis play. I just think Isaac Davis has got, he's hungry, he wants to do well, and that's not a knock on at Chris Willock. I just think that we need energy from the off, and we need to be pressing, and we need to do that. And I like almost like the little V's, the zigzags they do, because they play in to play out. When we do that and we start to see patterns on the pitch, we look unbelievable. Goal scorers for the 2. Oh, let's go Amari for 1, because I think he's got a wand of a left foot. And I don't know, maybe like a Ryan Wintle, just smash it from the edge of the box or something like that.
Callum Chambers on the volley. That was incredible. Again, he was unlucky. I said so. I recorded my preview, so spoiler, which is out tomorrow morning. I said 2-1 in that, and I think it'll be tight, but I think we'll get a win. I'd go pretty much with the same side, to be honest with you. I won't be shocked if I was predicting what BBM will do. That's probably slightly different, but I actually think Scanlon might get a start, whether that's on the wing or at left back, probably the left back. I would like to see Isaac Davis start through the middle, and then I'd play Kellyman off him. But I also kind of agree, you don't want Kellyman to come too deep either. So maybe you get Kean Ashford on the right then, because he likes to drift in, which gives you an extra body in the central areas. Perry and G can get up and help and give a bit of width. So, look, I think we have quality. I'd be very shocked if we played the same 11 that we played last week, simply because the manager very rarely plays the same 11. And, we'll see, mate. Hopefully a good start. And then I think if we have a good start, I tend to believe that we'll do pretty well in this game. I think if we are nervy or we go too direct and we play into their hands a little bit, then it could be a problem. I also think this game might be one where the momentum swings like back and forth a little bit. Not necessarily end to end like a basketball game, but I think like we might get 10 minutes, then they'll have 10 minutes. And especially because they've got these new signings, bringing them off the bench will give them a lift. They'll give the crowd a lift. So what you're hoping is that by the time they bring them on, we've already killed the game off. Would be nice. Wouldn't that be nice if we could just start putting teams to bed?
Yeah, I mean they're not going to go away. They've got I don't know if he's still fit or not, but Jordan Hugel as well. They've got a player there that we know is a bit of a, let's be honest, he puts himself around. So they're going to cause us a threat. And that's why I say, mate, I think you're spot on with what you said there is we've got to be the best version of ourselves. We've got to almost be high energy, high octane, and just be at it. And if that means we're going to have a few nervous moments, then we have to be able to absorb that. But wouldn't it be nice as well if we can get a positive result and say Isaac Davis or Kean Ashford or someone that maybe needs a little bit more boost of a confidence because they're young to get the winner? That'd be lovely. That'd be a perfect Saturday for me.
Yeah, mate. I'll take an improved performance and not losing, if I'm honest. Like, if we play really well and we draw, I'll probably be pissed off Saturday. But ultimately, I'd probably take that because more worrying against Burton was the periods when we were poor. We were very poor, which is that's a break from the norm, if you like. Like, I feel like there's been very few games over the season so far where I can say, God, we weren't very good today. Like, we generally have been decent in most games for at least periods. Now, there's obviously exceptions. But even then, saying that, the Bradford second half was horrific. But the Bradford first half, we should have been out of sight. So even that is one of them. Lincoln, I thought we weren't great, but we still could have got something from it. So, yeah, I would take a good performance and a tight win any day of the week. But it would also be nice if, what did we say before or after the? I can't remember if it was before or after the Barnsley game. At some point, mate, we are going to give a couple of teams an absolute tune in, and it would be nice when, when the likes of Lincoln and Bolton and these teams think that they're putting us under pressure and they're kind of, they're going to fold under the pressure. If we came away and just went away to Rotherham and, like Jamie says, there, 1-3-0, clean sheet, couple of goals, and it's just like, there you go, pressure's back off, because emotional, isn't it? When we lose, the world's falling in, and when we win, we're back. Kind of is what it is, isn't it? Thank you so much to everyone who's tuned in, even our friends from up west. Thank you so much. Really appreciate the views and the comments. And look, we'll be back. I'm back in the morning with a preview tomorrow night, Tactical Showdown, where we have a proper deep dive into Rotherham v Cardiff City. If you haven't looked at it yet, I did a video yesterday looking at the first game. Got it all covered. And match day morning, 9 a.m., 3 big questions that Cardiff will have to answer to get 3 points on the road. So, and then we'll have all the post-match reaction and all that stuff as well, which is, Cardiff City World, 7 days a week, all day, all year. That's what it's about. Jamie, as always, mate, thank you so much.
No worries at all.
Next week, we'll be talking about 3 points and what was everyone worried about. In a bit.
This channel is powered by an incredible membership community on Cardiff City World and patreon.com/AcePodcastNation. Becoming a member unlocks exclusive rewards from early access to live event tickets, bonus content, and even the occasional inside transfer scoop when we get it. But more importantly, it allows us to bring you top quality Cardiff City content 7 days a week. Across those 7 days, we're talking match previews, exclusive interviews, instant match reactions, the breakdown podcast, tactical deep dives, the spotlight series, Bluebirds Rewind, Academy Focus, and just so much more. Led by myself, backed by an army of passionate Cardiff City fans, this is content created by fans for fans. Balanced, professional, and 100% all about the club we all love. If you enjoy what we do, then join the community today and support what we are doing as we help to keep Cardiff City World flying high.